גשר, גשר צר מאוד, כל העולם כולו, גשר, גשר צר מאוד.
Good evening, everyone. Shabbat Shalom. Glad we are all here on this much warmer but also much rainier evening. We're going to begin with Hine Matov. You can find that either on page 10 or on the screen in front of you.
Hine
turn to our Sabbath candle lighting. We bring in the light of Shabbat in this very dark time of year. I'd like the candles to work. Let's see. I don't give y'all enough credit for this job. Together we bring in the light of Shabbat. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav, mitzivanu lehadlik ner shel Shabbat. We continue either on the screen in front of you or on page 14. I know many of you were here when my friend Beth Reinstein was in town. She is the intern at Central Synagogue and just has a new place that she got placed with. I don't know how official that is yet, but I can't say where, but it's exciting, it's good news. And she gave us a wonderful Or Zarua, light is sown for the righteous. I will reteach it just to make sure we all have it. But it's a wonderful one. It goes like this. Oh Zarua la tzadik. Can we try that? Oh Zarua la tzadik uyishrei lev simcha. Can we try that? Uyishrei lev simcha. And then we do that again, but it's a little different at the end. Oh Zarua la tzadik uyishrei lev simcha. Can we try that? Oh Zarua la tzadik uyishrei lev simcha. At the end, it's a little different again. Can we do that whole section again? And here's the part where I have to apologize because the second part of the song is not on the screen in front of you. It is on page 14 though. I promise it's in your prayer books. It's the part that starts Simchu Tzadikim Baronai. And it goes like this. I'll sing first and we'll sing together. You can bring it down the octave too. You're more than welcome. Listen. Let's try it. First part's the same. Listen. Let's bring it back to Or Zarua. Or Zarua, la tzadik uyishrei lev simcha. 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 One of my favorite things about being a cantor and knowing all of these other amazing cantors is I get to lift up their voices. This one's not a cantor, but was my professor. We are going to continue with Lecha Dodi. We're on page 20. As always, we will be doing verses 1, 2, 5, and 9, rising on the 5th verse to greet the proverbial Sabbath bride as she enters. Hopefully no one real enters. That's happened before. It's like my worst nightmare. Lecha dodi likrat kala pere Shabbat nekabela. Lecha dodi likrat kala pere Shabbat nekabela. Shamor vezachor v'divurecha Hishmiyanu el hamelchan Adonai echad u'shmo echad L'shem u'tiferet v'litila Lecha dodi likrat kala pere Shabbat nekabela. Lecha dodi likrat kala pere Shabbat nekabela. Likrat Shabbat lechu v'nelcha Ki mekor haberacha Merosh mikedem nesucha Sof ma'aseh b'machshava tchila Lecha dodi likrat kala pere Shabbat nekabela. Lecha dodi likrat kala pere Shabbat nekabela. Hitoreri, hitoreri Ki ba'orech tumi uri Uri, uri, shivdaberi Kevod Adonai alaych nigla Lecha dodi likrat kala pere Shabbat nekabela. Lecha dodi likrat kala pere Shabbat nekabela. We rise to greet the Sabbath bride. Boi v'shalom ateret bala Gam besimcha u'b'tzola Toch emunei yom segula Boi chala, boi chala Lecha dodi likrat kala pere Shabbat nekabela. Lecha dodi likrat kala pere Shabbat nekabela. And as we're all up and about, I invite you to turn to your neighbor and place your bets. Is Punxsutawney Phil gonna see his shadow next week? I want to know your thoughts. I'm also a pessimist about that. There will be more time for speculation at our sponsored Oneg. Thank you to Iris and Chris for sponsoring this Oneg in memory of your sister Iris. I invite you to be seated And we continue with Shalom Aleichem. We are on page 24, welcoming God's ministering angels on this holy day. Shalom Aleichem, Malachei Asharet, Malachei Elyon, Bimelech Malachei Hamelachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Bochem Shalom, Malachei Hashalom, Malachei Elyon, Bimelech Malachei Hamelachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Baruch Hu Shalom, Malachei Hashalom, Malachei Elyon, Bimelech Malachei Hamelachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Tzeitzchem Shalom, Malachei Hashalom, Malachei Elyon, Bimelech Malachei Hamelachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Will you join me on page 27? Teach me, O God, a blessing, a prayer, on the mystery of a withered leaf, on ripened fruit so fair, on the freedom to see, to sense, to breathe, to know, to hope, to despair. Teach my lips a blessing, a hymn of praise, as each morning and night you renew our days. Lest my day be today as the one before, lest routine set my ways. Yitkadal ve'yitkadash shemei Rabbah, ve'amha tivrach hirutei ve'amlich malchutei, ve'chayeichon uvyomeichon, uv'chayei dechol beit Yisrael, bagala, bagala, uvizaman kariv, ve'imeru amen, Yehei shmei Rabbah mevarach, le'alam ulam ve'amaya, yitbarach, yitbarach ve'yishtabach, v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh, v'yithadar v'yitale v'yithalal, shemei kodesha barichu, le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechemata, damiran belma, v'yimeru amen. We turn to page 28 for our call to worship. Please rise. Will you join me in the English on page 30? Blessed are you, Adonai, our God, ruler of the universe, who speaks the evening into being, skillfully opens the gates, thoughtfully alters the time and changes the seasons, and arranges the stars in their heavenly courses according to plan. You are creator of day and night, rolling light away from darkness and darkness from light, transforming day into night and distinguishing one from the other. Adonai Tzevaot is your name. Ever-living God, may you reign continually over us into eternity. Blessed are you, Adonai, who brings on evening. Baruch atah Adonai, Hama'ariv Aravim. And at the top of page 33. As you taught Torah to those whose names I bear, teach me Torah too. Its mystery beckons, yet I struggle with its truth. You meant Torah for me. Did you mean the struggle for me too? Don't let me struggle alone. Help me to understand, to be wise, to listen, to know. Lead me into the mystery. Baruch atah Adonai, Ohev Amo Yisrael, pages 34 and 35. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad, Baruch Shem Kevod Malachuto Leolam Vaed. You may be seated. We continue with Ve'ahavta on page 36. Ve'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha bechol levavecha uvechol nafshecha uvechol meodecha ve'hayu hadvarim ha'ele asher anochi mitzavecha hayom alevavecha veshinantam levanecha vedibarta bam beshivtecha beveitecha uvelechtecha vaderech uveshochbecha uvekumecha ukshartam leot al yadecha vehayu letotafot beineinecha uchtavtam al mezuzot beitecha uvisharecha lema'an tizkeru va'asitem et kol mitzvotai v'hitem kedoshim le'Elohechem ani Adonai Elohechem asher hotzeiti etchem me'eretz Mitzrayim lihiyot lachem le'Elohim ani Adonai Elohechem Adonai Elohechem Emet. Will you join me on page 39 at the top? Standing on the parted shores of history, we still believe that we were taught before ever we stood at Sinai's foot, that wherever we go, it is eternally Egypt, that there is a better place, a promised land, that the winding way to that promise passes through the wilderness, that there is no way to get from here to there except by joining hands, marching together. Who is like you, O God, awesome and powerful, working wonders? We continue on page 40 with our Micha Mocha praise.
Neda
We've come to the time in our service where we ask for God to put a shelter of peace over our hostages, over all those who are in harm's way. And this week and in the last couple of weeks, we've had some things to celebrate. There have been multiple hostages who have come home. IDF soldiers, civilians, Thai nationals have all come home. I'll get into their pictures a little bit later. An exchange student of my best friend from school came home last week. So I know that some people, many of us in the Jewish community realize just how close this all is, but for those of us who are not part of the Jewish community, we're very small. We feel this very deeply. And it is wonderful and bittersweet to celebrate knowing that there are many that will come home and then many that will not be coming home. So we ask for a shelter of peace, a Shabbat Shalom, over all of those who are suffering, all of those who are in harm's way. We continue on page 42 or on the screens in front of you. Wanted to show you a couple of the happy faces that have returned home. It's so amazing the joy that radiates from these photos. And indeed, miraculously, there has been a shelter of peace over many of our hostages, and we're deeply grateful to all of those who made it possible to release both Israeli nationals, Thai nationals, IDF soldiers, and more. And so I say, blessed are you, God, who frees the captive. And our next piece, Lamentations, we've talked about this before. I wrote this next piece. I don't know if I've ever explained where I got this from, but this very first blessing, Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam matir asurim. I wanted to say it tonight because our captives have been freed, at least many of them, and it is appropriate to thank God at this time for that. These three blessings come from something called the Nisim B'chol Yom. There are morning blessings. And the week after October 7th, I didn't have good material to bring to the Bima. And I said, but the material already exists, just in the wrong service, right? Blessed are you, God, who frees the captive. Blessed are you, God, who lifts up the fallen. Blessed are you, God, who gives us strength. These three brachot, I call this song Lamentations because it's set in Lamentations trope. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam matir asurim. Lamentations being what we would hear at the chanting of Eicha, right, during Tisha B'Av. So it's lamentations. We're hopeful to God that God will free our captives, but it's still deeply painful. The pain that we have all felt endures and will endure for a very long time. So it's perhaps bittersweet on the arrival home of all of our hostages. But I wanted to sing these blessings. Blessed are you, God, who frees the captive. Blessed are you, God, who lifts up the fallen. Blessed are you, God, who gives us strength. And perhaps this is in a minor key tonight, but we Jews love to sing happy songs in minor keys. So we're going to sing it. Give us strength. Help us to lift up the fallen. Help us to free the captive. And from this bittersweet moment into the sweetness of Shabbat, often a difficult transition, especially for me, and I would imagine for all of you, but an important one, for just as the Jewish people has kept Shabbat, Shabbat has kept the Jewish people. So we continue with Vishamru. We're on page 44. Vishamru Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu ve'Elohei avoteinu ve'imotenu Elohei Avraham Elohei Yitzchak ve'Elohei Yaakov Elohei Sarah Elohei Rivka Elohei Rachel ve'Elohei Leah Ha'el Hagadol Hagibor ve'Hanora El Elyon Gomel Chasadim Tovim Ve'Konei Hakol Ve'Zocher Chastei Avot ve'Imahot Umevi Geula Livnei V'nei Ham Lema'an Shemo be'ahava Melech Ozer u'Moshiach u'Magen Baruch atah Adonai, Magen Avraham ve'ezrat Sarah. Atah gibor le'olam Adonai, Mechayeh hakol atah rav lehoshia, Mashiv haruach u'morid hagashem, Mechalkel chayim bechesed, Mechayeh hakol berachamim rabim, Samech novlim verofei cholim, Umatir asurim, Umekayeh memunato lishenei afar, Michamocha ba'al gevurot, Umidam melach, melech meimit, Umechayeh, Umatzmiach Yeshua, V'ne'eman atah lehachayot hakol. Baruch atah Adonai, Mechayeh hakol. Atah kadosh v'shimcha kadosh, u'kadoshim b'chol yom yehalelucha selah. Baruch atah Adonai, Ha'el hakadosh. I invite you to pray this next set of pages either by reading what is here in front of you or by praying the prayer that is in your heart. When you have finished your davening, I invite you to be seated. time in our service where we think of those who are in need of healing of mind, body, or spirit. If you know a loved one who is in need of healing, I invite you to say their names aloud as I pass my hand around the congregation, but prayers of the heart are also accepted. Thank you. Thank you.
Rebecca,
Thank you.
Nick Marvel. Tony Breslin.
Everyone related to the escaping incident.
Laney Shabbat.
Emily Forsmark.
Howard Shapiro.
Gabe.
Francine Litz, Edward Martin, Marion Gessick.
We wish them a refuah shlema, a speedy recovery, and we turn to page 253 for our Mi Sheberach prayer. I spent a lot of time watching classic, family-friendly movies with my parents and my siblings when I was a kid. In the basement, we had a cabinet stacked to the brim with VHS tapes for Disney, alongside many other live-action features. My dad is a media enthusiast, always devouring the best shows he can possibly find, and he shared his love of good film and television with us. One of his favorite films of the 90s, and one of my favorites too, is The Truman Show. Perhaps a chilling prediction in the boom in reality television to come in the 2000s. The Truman Show is about a man named, what else, Truman, who has no idea that his entire life is being recorded and broadcasted 24/7 to the real world, in which he is not a resident. It's all fake. His wife, his job, his neighborhood, everything. They're all paid actors. Throughout the course of the movie, Truman begins to notice some oddities in his life, such as a patch of rain falling only onto him, or a radio transmission describing his movements about town, and even the reappearance of his dead father. During the film, Truman realizes that somehow the entire town revolves around him, and he begins to question everything. The duty to ask questions is perhaps one of my favorite parts of the Jewish religion, and often the thing that I use to describe to others as the factor that sets us apart from other religious traditions. Truman was taking part in a rich Jewish tradition by looking at the world around him and decided he needed to know more. The Mishnah is essentially a bunch of volumes of people arguing over questions of Jewish practice, and even the most Orthodox Jews can understand that some people hold different halakha, Jewish law, in different ways due to their answer to a question. For example, in the Dutch Jewish tradition, one must only wait an hour to consume dairy after eating meat. In much of the rest of the Ashkenazi world, that number is closer to 6 hours. Most Ashkenazi Jews would not tell you that the Dutch are doing things wrong. As it turns out, there are different answers to the same question. They can all be right. In that same vein, Moses has been doing a lot of questioning in the last few weeks of our Torah portions. He questioned all he knew when he saw an Egyptian taskmaster beating a Jew and then made the rash decision to kill that man. He questioned himself and his abilities when God spoke to him at the burning bush. But in this week's Torah portion, Parashat Bo, it's been me that's been doing a lot of questioning. You see in this week's parasha, we get the 10 plagues, beginning with blood and ending with the death of the firstborn sons. Each time Moses comes to Pharaoh, notably his adopted brother, to ask him to let his people go, Pharaoh's heart hardens. But it hardens differently depending on where we are in the story. For the first 5 plagues, Pharaoh hardens his own heart. For the final 5, God hardens it. I already have questions. Namely, is there any free will going on in this story? Or is this merely a script to get the Israelites out of Egypt? Perhaps the first 5 plagues, it was free will, and Pharaoh made a choice to put up his defenses. But why would God harden the heart of Pharaoh when the lives of his chosen people were at stake? And then, of course, there's the ethical implications of the final plague, killing all the firstborn sons in Egypt. The plagues had already killed their cattle, eaten their crops, literally blotted out the sun. And now the angel of death is coming for human beings, often children. And yes, I get that there was a decree that the sons of the Israelites had to be killed. In fact, the whole reason we have Moses in the position he is in the first place was because his mother tried to subvert that very rule. So perhaps you can call the slaying of the firstborn sons in Egypt to be an eye for an eye. But is that ethical? Is it fair? Do all the Egyptians need to suffer because of their supreme leader who won't listen to his own brother? That was a lot of questions, and I am afraid I don't have answers for you. These questions have been discussed between scholars for thousands of years, and there has been no definite conclusion. But perhaps that's the entire intent of the contents of the book of Exodus. Exodus is full of stories that might make you question reality, including the aforementioned material, but also the literal splitting of the sea, manna falling from heaven to feed the Israelites, and so on. The writers of the book of Exodus understood that the heart of Jewish thought is that of the question. And while for Truman, questioning ripped him apart from his perceived community, in the Jewish world, questions bring us together. In the Mishnah, which, as I said, helped solidify much of Jewish law, there were 2 houses of study, the house of Hillel and the house of Shammai. I invite you to read some of this material at some point because it is excellent. They battle over every law you can possibly imagine, duking it out to decide what halakha will prevail. Yet, the houses of Hillel and Shammai were not enemies. The opposite, in fact. They were valued thought partners to help decipher God's and Torah and all of its rules. Often these students left the bounds of friendship, and members of the house of Hillel would marry members of the house of Shammai. That is to say, the argument, the questioning, Judaism uses this to bring us all together, not to tear us apart. Not to spoil a 27-year-old movie for you, but at the end of The Truman Show, Truman trusts his instincts enough to escape the gigantic soundstage that he has essentially been imprisoned on, facing his biggest fears to find a better life. Moses also faces his biggest fears to find a better life and liberates the Israelites from captivity. In this world, there is much to fear. The world is changing rapidly, so rapidly that it is impossible to keep up with what is happening. Instead of digging your head in the sand, instead of freezing, I invite you to be like Truman, and like Moses, and like Hillel, and like Shammai, and like all of our rabbinic ancestors. There's a reason questions are so central to our tradition. I invite you to ask them. We turn to page 282 for our Aleinu praise, and I invite all of you to rise.
Everyone, forgive me for interrupting. You'll get a kick out of it. Everyone will. Temple 9 November was in the Truman Show.
Really? Oh, Oh, for those online, Rabbi Maltler has told us that there was a member of Temple Emmanuel who was in the Truman Show.
This prayer book here is dedicated by her brother Eric.
No way.
She had a teeny tiny part.
That's so funny.
Teeny tiny
What was her name, Rabbi?
Carly Smiga.
Carly Smiga. Well, shout out to you for taking a cameo in my sermon.
In the credits.
That's amazing. Thank you, Rabbi. That's so funny. And now that we've all turned around to listen to that amazing fun fact, I invite all of you to rise for our Aleinu praise. Aleinu l'shabeach la'adon ha'kol, la'teit gedula v'yotzer bereshit, shelo asanu kegoyei ha'aratzot, ve'lo samanu kemishpachot ha'adama, shelo sam chelkeinu kahem, ve'gor aleinu kefol hamonam, va'anachnu korin, u'mishtachavim u'modim, lifnei Malach, Malachei hamelachim, hakadosh baruch hu, v'nemar v'haya Adonai, lemelech al kol haaretz, bayom hahu, bayom hahu, yeh Adonai echad, u'shemo, u'shemo, u'shemo echad. You may be seated. We've come to the time in our service where we remember our beloved dead, people who have passed recently or on the anniversary of their passing. We observe the period of Shloshim for Marcia Slayton, and we mark the yahrzeits of Tova Joy Bernfeld, Ida Blyman, Rose Breslow, Irving Kaplan, Morris Treutner, Henry Cohen, Rose Cohen, Victor H. Cohen, Leonard Cohn, Jane Colavincenzo. Say that name again for me. I want to make sure I get that right. I heard it out there. I got it right? Okay, thank you. Mary H. Cook, Katie Fireman, Helene Flightman, Richard Glod, Leonard Gordon, Max Green, Irving Hartman, Sydney Hoffman, Marion Louise Hummel, Max M. Jacobson, Dora Commissar, Zelma Cates, Michael E. Kelly, Harry Kent, Bernard H. Klein, Richard Loughton, Rick Levy, Fanny London, Ruth G. London, Grace McMillan, Patricia Mallet, Brenda C. Miller, Gertrude Miller, William Miller, Beverly Paddock, Harold Pomerantz, Harold Portnoy, Steve Prisner Jr., Desi Rasmussen, Sarah Reisenkopf, Sylvia Richardson, Alfred Robinson, Elaine Rosecrans, Marion Ross, Joseph Rothlein, Harry Rubin, Alan Rubenstein, Alan J. Samowich, Abraham Shiner, Alan Schwartzberg, Joseph Shore, Philip Solomon, and Jack Taylor. And if you are remembering someone this evening, or if I mispronounced your loved one's name, I'm sorry if I did, please feel free to say their name aloud as I pass my hand through the congregation. Again, prayers of the heart also accepted. We turn to page 294 to support our mourners. We rise for our Kaddish Yatom, our mourners Kaddish, as we affirm. Yit Gadal v'yit Kadash Shemei Rabbah, Be'alma divra chirute ve'amlich malchute, B'chayechon u'v'yomechon, ובחיי דכל בית ישראל, בעגלה ובזמן קריב ואמרו אמן. יהי שמי רבה מברך לעולם ולעלמי עלמיה. יתברך וישתבח ויתפאר ויתרומם ויתנשא. ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתהלל, שמי דקודשה בריחו. לעילה מן כל ברכתה ושירתה, תושבחתה ונחמתה, דאמירן בעלמה ואמרו אמן. יהי שלמה רבה מן שמיה, וחיים עלינו ועל כל ישראל, ואמרו אמן. עושה שלום במרומיו, הוא יעשה שלום, עלינו ועל כל ישראל, ואמרו amen. May the one who creates harmony on high bring peace to us and to all Israel, to which we say, amen. You may be seated. I want to extend some thank yous to my partner in crime, Ellen. Thank you so much for making all of this happen this evening. To our greeter, Nico, thank you so much for being here. And to all of you who chose this rainy Friday evening to spend with me, thank you all so much for being here. Asking questions is a hard thing to do, right? There's a reason why Judaism asks us to do it. It doesn't ask us to do easy things. It asks us to do hard things. And so I wanted to conclude with a song that's a little bit adjacent to it. Not by might, not by power, but by spirit alone shall we all live in peace. It is the spirit of the question that I want us all to dwell in. That we must ask these questions of what is going on around us, good, bad, everything. We must know more. As lifelong learning is the goal of Judaism. We are all here to learn. So we have to have the spirit of learning and the spirit of question. So I want to go ahead and sing this song, and I invite you all to sing along. May the spirit of our questions indeed bring us peace. And I invite you to turn back to page 5, where we will sanctify our Sabbath day with a short kiddush. I invite you all to rise. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, borei peri hagafen. And we say the prayer, the blessing over the food, the very nice oneg that we are about to eat. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, hamotzi lechem min haaretz b'te'avon. Shabbat Shalom. Thank you again to Iris and Chris for sponsoring this beautiful oneg. I look forward to enjoying it together. Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom.